Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good night, depending on who you are or where you are. Welcome to this webinar. This is the 5th webinar that we are organizing from the Cities and Local Government section of UNDP. We call it SDG Local Solutions because we believe that cities and local governments are contributing a lot to the Agenda 2030. And through this series of webinars, we want to exchange and highlight how cities and local governments are addressing the SDGs. You can see here the SDG colors. We have SDGs all over the place. First of all, a couple of technical questions. We have interpretation. Tenemos interpretación al español y al inglés. So you can select in the bottom of your Zoom, you see interpretation or interpretación. En la parte de abajo de sus pantallas se encuentran interpretación. Pueden seleccionar inglés, español. You can choose English or Spanish, and it should be working. I hope. I'm looking to my panelists, to Bewin and Emilio. Is the interpretation working? ¿Está funcionando la interpretación? ¿Bien? ¿Funciona desde el inglés al español? Perfecto.
Bien, sí.
Genial. Muchas gracias a nuestras intérpretes. Okay, so technically you have interpretation. We have a chat in the bottom as well that you can use to introduce yourselves. You can make comments, questions, so use the chat at any time. This video is being recorded, and normally we are going to edit a little bit and then we will publish it in YouTube, but editing it before so it doesn't go as it is. We will edit in case there is some kind of hiccups or technical problems, but we are recording it and we will publish this video in YouTube. We are here today to talk about we have called this event Keeping It Cold. So we are seeing how cities, local governments are dealing with solutions to keep fresh products fresh and how to storage and sell fresh products. That may not be like a super Agenda 2030 problem, but it is. Because of course, SDG 2, which deals with no hunger and food security, the cold chain of fresh products is very important, especially in places where it's hot and it can affect the quality and the affordability of food. So we have identified two experiences, the cities of Rocha in Uruguay and the city of Rourkela in India, where the cities are providing solutions, storage solutions for local producers to sell their products in a better quality and better prices and safer products to consume for their citizens. The methodology of today, we are going to have two presentations. We have with us Bewin Tom, who is our project supervisor of the Global Mayors Challenge in Rourkela in India. And we also have with us Emilio Rotondaro, who is the director for let me see if I can translate now from English. So it's from Fisheries and Semi-Industrial Fisheries, from the Direction of Production and Economic Development of the Departmental Government of Rocha in Uruguay. We're going to have a presentation from India first and the second from Uruguay, but please feel free to make your questions, your comments through the chat. And then we will have also a moment for our participants to speak. So if you want to participate, if we have good time, we will be able to bring you as panelists and you will also be able to speak on camera. So thank you very much for your attention. And without further ado, I leave the floor to Bewin to talk about the wonderful work that they are doing in Rocha. Over to you, in Rocha, in Rourkela.
Okay. I hope you can see my screen. And once again, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants. My name is Bewin Tom. I am the project supervisor for the Rourkela Cold Room project. So Rourkela is a city in the eastern region of India, in the state of Odisha. So here we are developing cold storage units for farmers so that we can increase the shelf life of the produce. With this project, we are trying to empower farmers and also women cooperatives, because these cold rooms are operated by women groups. Now let's go deeper into our project. The farmers in Rourkela have got two options when it comes to sell their produce. First option is that they can sell it to middleman who buys the products from them. But the problem is that they get very low value. The second option is that the farmers can come to the market, the vegetable market, where they are sitting throughout the day and trying to sell these produces. But by the end of the market day, if they are not able to sell these produces, they are forced to sell it at a very low rate. And we call it distress selling. Because these farmers are coming from like 10, 20 kilometers far, it is not economical for them to take it back to their village. For example, vegetables like cabbage, tomato, they have been sold at around 20 to 40% less than the market price. So one of the initial survey when we conducted, 83% of the the market participants told that if they have got storage, they don't have to sell the produce at a lower price in the market. To solve this problem, the first action which the city is doing is setting up the infrastructure. This is the cold room we are having in the city. So like this, we are developing 5 cold storages, solar powered cold storages within the market itself, within the vegetable markets owned by the municipality. Each of these cold rooms will be used by more than 120 to 160 farmers. So once 5 cold rooms are online, we have more than 600 farmers using the cold room. One important aspect of this cold room are we have got 3 independent chambers with different temperatures so that we can store different type of vegetables and fruits. Another important aspect is that we have got a thermal storage with ice pack as backup. So even if there is power failure, the cold rooms will continue to run for 24 hours. And also we have tried to include a 5-year maintenance for the solar and the cold storage, considering the project sustainability. So here you could see the farmer coming to the cold room and to put the vegetables in the cold storage. As I told, these farmers live in the outskirts of the city, like 10 to 30 kilometers. So they come every day to the market to sell the produce. So this is at the night time. This lady is coming to store her beans in the cold storage. And for this, we charge the farmers a very minimal amount, around 3 rupees, that is 3.6 cents for 15 kilogram of vegetables. And the vegetables which they store include like tomato, cabbage, eggplant, pumpkin, beans, so on. And also fruits are kept like apple, watermelon, banana. Here you could see the tomatoes which are kept in the cold storage and also, yeah. Our second action is training and handholding for the woman cooperative who is running the cold room, who's operating the cold room. As I've told before, the cold rooms are operated by the community itself, by the women group within the city. So these women group are selected by the municipality based on their previous performance and track record. Each cold room have around 5 to 7 women members working together as a group. So our action is that we are providing training and capacity building for these women so that they are ready to operate the cold room. So they know the technical know-how, like which cold room, how the cold room operates and its technical know-how. And also we gave them management trainings on like financial literacy, how to keep the ledger and record and so on. And we don't stop there. Once they're trained, we continue to provide them hand-holding while they're operating the cold room, like for the initial 18 months, like, so there will be somebody with them in the cold room and the facility. So whenever they have any challenges, they can go to that person and ask for help while they are learning on the job. And also we provide them financial incentive during the starting months, because they don't have to look at the profit, but learn how to operate the cold room and associated infrastructure. So as I told before, the cold room is operated by the community, but it is owned by the municipality, which will ensure that everyone is doing their job and the project is sustainable in the long run. Our third action is that from our initial study, we found that the income from the cold room is not enough for the project to be sustainable. So we have tried to diversify the income. And also we have tried to reduce the operational expense of the cold room with the help of solar and electric vehicle, which you could see here. We have tried to reduce the operational expenses of the cold room. So the different income streams which we have, first and foremost, it is the cold room user charge. That is the payment which the community, the woman group receives for storing the vegetable from the farmers. The second income stream is that this woman group aggregate the vegetables from farmers as a sourcing point and then sell it to hotels, institutions like colleges, canteens in a bulk quantity and get a margin from that. The third income stream is that this woman group sells the vegetables to city residents. Before, they didn't have this option. So if they do a message on WhatsApp, they can receive the vegetable at their home. And the fourth income stream is we have a small shop along with the cold room. We call it Common Facilitation Center, where it acts as an office for the women and also sells produces like organic rice, grains, and other stuff, and also handcraft items from other women groups from the city and in the region. So we're trying to promote other women groups, cooperatives within the region. So these are the multiple income streams by which we are planning to meet the operational expense of the cold room. So considering the project sustainability, first and foremost, we have tried to diversify the income stream. Other than the cold room usage fee, we have diversified the income streams. Second, we have a trained woman group. So they are able and they have got a good capacity to operate the cold room. And we try to regularly monitor their performance. If they are doing the work there properly, are they meeting the target, so on. And then we have made sure that the project is owned by the municipality. So we have their monitoring also, looking at the project if everything is going in order. And finally, we have tried to reduce the operational expenses with help of solar. Because if you look at conventional cold rooms, the biggest cost is the energy. So we are using solar power so that we don't have to pay for energy. And also we have included the maintenance agreement into the infrastructure so that the regular maintenance is also included. Our project is supported by many partners. First and foremost, it is the Rourkela Municipal Corporation who owns the project and regularly monitors the project and take care of the women group. Then we have the district horticulture department, the district agriculture department, and other NGOs working with them. So they are responsible for linking our cold room with the larger farming cluster, where there are a group of farmers working together and growing producers. So they help us to connect with them. Then we have farmer producer organization, again, group of farmers working together. So we go to villages and try to create awareness among them that the benefits of cold room, if they associate with the project, what are the advantages they will get, how they can earn better income, and so on. And finally, we have a private company supporting us called Coil Fresh Private Limited. They provide capacity building for the women group and also handholding and supervises the project on the ground. So if you look at the biggest achievement about the project, I would say, as you can see in the picture, we have the woman group, a lady, her name is Tulasi Das. She is operating the computer and printing the bill for the customers. Why it is an achievement? Because earlier she was working in her home itself, making snacks and selling to outlets. But now I can proudly say that she is operating the cold room, meeting with customers, meeting with farmers, creating impact in the society. We could see that there's a growth in their skill set and knowledge among the women self-help group members. If I look at a challenge, a difficulty which we faced during the project execution, we faced some opposition from the public. So a learning which I received from that, we should have done a public consultation along with the site feasibility, along looking at the technical feasibility, we should have done a social feasibility that would have avoided such a situation. Now, looking at the sustainable development goal, which we are trying to address with this project, first and foremost, it is zero hunger. With this project, we are empowering the farmers because they are the direct beneficiaries of this project. And by 2025, we are hoping that we can increase the income of these farmers by 60%. First, by using the cold room, they can reduce their wastage and reduce the distress selling. They don't have to throw away the products. They can store and then sell it next day. And second, by market linkages. That is, with the help of this cold room and women group, their products will be aggregated and sold to bigger buyers like hotels and canteens. And second, SDG is the gender equality with women cooperatives running it. With 5 cold rooms operations, we will have more than 25 women working directly with this project. With this, I come to the conclusion of my presentation. If you have any queries, you can reach to me out at bevin.tom@undp.org. Thank you for your listening. Looking forward to hearing from you all.
Thank you very much, Bewin. We would like to ask Emilio if he has some specific question for you. Emilio, did you follow the conversation fine? The interpretation was good, no? ¿Qué pregunta tienes?
Ningún problema.
Sure, yeah, it worked fine. It's a pleasure for me to be exchanging these realities that we are facing in our cities and in our countries. I'd like to thank all the organizers and all the collaborators at this event. Of course, from the Rocha department, we are fully open to generating this kind of exchanges. And I'd like to explain what I do. I'm the area head of the craft fishing and semi-industrial fishing division at the economic development area in the municipality of Rocha. Well, my questions have to do with the funding, the financing, and the self-sustainability of the project. The designation of the spaces within the rooms, within the chambers for the farmers. How have you implemented that? And then how did you manage, whether the project is also funding the use of the solar energy for feeding the chambers? We have a different reality here. It's very different. I see that you are much more advanced than us as to the organization of the work. So those are my questions that have 3 different areas. That's just it.
I think I got your questions clear. Otherwise, we'll ask again. First, you were talking about the how the project is funded. So this project was part of the Global Mayor Challenge by Bloomberg Philanthropies. So the city was a winner in that project. And so the project is funded by them. And it is, UNDP is managing this project. And the second question was regarding the how
La sostenibilidad.
Yeah, about the sustainability, or how you created the self-sustainability of the project a long time. Do you have a plan for the mid and long term?
Yes. So the main aspect of project sustainability here, if you look, the capital for the capital infrastructure is covered with this capital, the funding which we receive. But if we look at the long-term sustainability, we need to cover the operational expenses. The operational expenses mainly are the incentive for the woman group who's operating the cold room. They would be looking at something like the financial incentive they have to receive as an income and salary. Then we have electric vehicle driver, the driver for the electric rickshaw. Then we have security. So these are the main operational expenses. As I've told before, since we have the solar power, we don't have to pay for the electricity. So that is covered. And yeah, so considering the sustainability, the main, so we have tried to diversify the income. So with the cold room user fee only, we won't be able to meet the whole expenses, maybe half. Then we have this bulk selling of the producers to the hotels and canteens. So our woman group will collect the vegetables from farmers as a sourcing point, and then we sell these to hotels. So from that, once this bulk quantity of vegetables are being sold, we get a margin of money for the woman group. Then we are selling these vegetables with the help of electric rickshaw to residences. So from there also we'll get a margin. And finally, we have a shop made next to the cold room. So it acts as an office for the woman group. And also we sell organic rice and so on, and handicraft item from other woman groups from the city and from the state. So these are also being sold and they get a margin like 10%, 20% margin on these selling also. So from these four sources, we are hoping that we will be able to meet the operational expenses. At this point, we are like the first cold room. We are having 5 cold rooms. The first cold room has been operational since 6 months or so. So at this point, we have not reached the full capacity of our cold room. It's only 33% so on, because it has to reach to more people and the summer is yet to come. And once then, we are hoping that we will be able to reach 70% or 100% of the capacity. Yeah, so that's why we try to diversify the income sources for the women, so it becomes sustainable.
Do you have any other question, Emilio? No, I could stay here talking for hours, but perhaps the questions could be redundant. So thank you to our colleague from India for this information and for this connection for exchange.
I have 3 questions for you, Bewin, from the chat, okay? So quickly, we have Carla Mateluna from the International Organization of Migrations in Rocha, who's asking if the cooperative of women are only like residents, or do you have migrant women working in the cooperatives as well?
It is city residents. So they are already a group and they have been doing some small activities before, like I told. They are from the same region, so they know each other. They have already formed a group. 5-6 women group come together and they form a group, and they do projects with the municipality before, or they make snacks and sell it, or they make textile. So with the help of capacity building, we have improved their skill, and now they are operating the cold room.
Wonderful. Then we have Anaclet, who is our colleague from the Global Mayors Challenge in Kigali, who is asking about how did you decide about the design of the site? So how did you decide where to put? How did you select that site and that provider? How did you proceed with installation? And how did you decide about the size of the room? So what was a little bit the process of building it?
So before starting the whole process, our first thing was doing a site feasibility study. So we had around more than 8 to 10 markets in the city. So our team visited each market and surveyed the number of farmers, what type of vegetables they are bringing. Is it a daily market or a weekly market? That's like once in a week or twice in a week. So like this, they have set parameters. And based on that, we selected markets which would be having more use of the cold room in terms of farmers, in terms of vegetable, they are bringing the capacity and the sales. So with that, we decided the first 5 markets out of the what we have in the city. So we did a site feasibility, and with that, we came to the conclusion. And in sites where, so the first cold room which I showed was 30 metric ton cold room, 10, 10, 10. So 10, one chamber is 10 metric ton. So we have 30 metric ton cold room. And in another site, it is 20 metric ton because that site, that market was not big enough, and so on. So based on the market capacity, we decided on the capacity of the cold rooms.
We have then Marwa Mtlai, who is from Tanzania, who has 2 questions, and then we will go to Emilio. So she's asking, what is the capacity of the cold rooms and what is the temperature inside the cold rooms? Because she's asking if you can use those spaces to work, or is too cold to stay inside.
Yeah, so as I told, it is a 30 metric ton, independent 10, 10, 10. So we have got 3 temperatures in the cold room. So one is less than 5 degrees Celsius, other one is 5 to 10 degrees Celsius, and other one is above 10. So we decided that based on the type of, like banana needs more than 10. It cannot go below 10 degrees Celsius. Apple need less than 5 degrees Celsius. Other vegetable, common vegetable like beans, eggplant needs 5 to 10. So based on that, we set the temperature of the cold room, and that can be changed depending upon the type of vegetables coming. Yeah, so it's cold, we cannot stay inside, it's chill.
And then her last question from Marwa, always in Tanzania, is if you use it for fish, and that is going to leave us the link with Emilio's project. So do you use it for fish? Do you have fishermen in Routela or no fish at all?
Unfortunately, we don't have like fishes coming from outside, and we don't have fishermen, but, and yeah, we are trying to use it only for non-vegetarian items. So some people are using it for putting cheese. Otherwise, we are not vegetables and fruits.
Thank you so much, Bewin. Sorry for the total of questions, but we have a very good group of active participants today.
All right, then, so we're moving to Rocha in Uruguay. And I now welcome Emilio again. He has already introduced himself correctly. He's the director of craft fishing and industrial fishing in the Industrial and Economic Development Department in the municipality of Rocha. So tell us, Emilio, about the experience you're developing in your city, about the cold rooms, and how you're working with the communities to ensure that the citizens get the food and the produce very fresh and very good. So back to you, Emilio. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I would like to tell you that in the department of Rocha, there are 2 main traditional fishing communities. One is in the Rocha Lagoon, which is also part of the National Protected Area System, the NAP system, and the other one is in Puente Balizas, which is a municipal town, a sort of village, where we find approximately more than 35 to 40 families. That changes depending on the season. We know that fishing is mainly concentrated on fish, the fish that comes from the Castillos Lagoon, that is also part of the National Protected Areas system. And there are 2 species. Well, we have fish and shrimp. Peneus paulempis, one species that is characteristic of our area in our department because it is present all throughout the east of Brazil, and it arrives in our main water reservoirs in the department. This involves more than 300 people in a period that spans between February to May approximately, where fishing of this species takes place. This is a very demanded species commercially by the main cities in the country, such as Montevideo or Maldonado. And these 35 to 40 people that live here all throughout the year, by talking to them, they expressed the need for cold storage to the mayor of the department, and he decided to support them with two 40-feet containers who have a capacity of more or less 29 tons on average. And the average shrimp extraction per season goes between 190 to 270, more or less. That is the maximum volume that we can get from that lagoon. And this type of fishing is done by different fishermen that come from other lagoons, other areas, to engage in this activity. In this harvest, this project started because of these fishermen, these people that have been demanding this for years, because the products that they offered didn't have access to cold storage, and it was not commercially feasible because of this, because of the middlemen. They didn't have enough time to preserve the produce, and most times they couldn't create an added value. For instance, in case of the shrimp, sometimes they only could offer the pulp, the flesh, not the whole shrimp because of that. And that's when we started interacting more with the community, not only in Puente Balizas, but also in Barra de Balizas, which is a smaller fisherman community that is in the coast, and Cabo Polonio, that is also part of this protected area system. So we provided this cold storage, and this is a historic solution to a demand that ocean and sea fishermen were also demanding. And after implementing the cooling chambers, that was all covered by the departmental government. The departmental government financed the purchase of these containers, of these cold chambers, which are internally refrigerated. The infrastructure is also at the hands of the departmental government, and nowadays, through this project, the project called Tu Localidad, which is a project managed by the local government, they have fostered the creation of a filleting room so that the local fishermen and neighbors can access to the necessary hygiene conditions to handle this produce, and that they can work in a more orderly, hygienic way to maintain the quality of their produce. And we have done all of this in more or less than a year, and nowadays we are close to entering the next shrimp harvest. So we are figuring out the logistics of that, and one of the difficulties that we face is related to the organization of the community in terms of how they can take advantage of this benefit that we are offering. We've had some difficulties because this is a high vulnerability area, and we were able to form a cooperative with 5 fishermen last week, with all that it involves, training of how to handle the tools. And we have also received support from the national government to do this. Not only financial support, but also technical training support so that we can explain to these people how a cooperative works and what it is. And now we are in that part, in that logistical part of the process. We are trying to create an internal procedural guideline for the operation of that filleting chamber so that the work is done in an orderly way and make sure that this is available for the Puente Balizas, Barra de Balizas, and Cabo Polonio communities. And in the first instance, our priorities would be these 43 or 45 people that have signed the demand. And as I was mentioning, we are figuring out the administration, the management side of it. We have no operators there, even though the management is at the hands of the departmental government. So that leads to some difficulties because we have to take people there. And we also have to figure out the logistics of the filleting chamber and the cooling chamber, which requires staff to take care of maintenance, conditioning, the cleaning of those chambers. And all of this was born so that the traditional fishermen can access the tools to make their products more valuable, so that that can have an added value and that it doesn't need to be sold to middlemen, so that they can sell their products after even the shrimp harvest time, because that would add additional value and they wouldn't need to depend on the middlemen, right? They could do it directly themselves. So they would have more independence and the working conditions would also be different for the traditional fishermen. All of this falls within the framework of an institutional work that we have been doing, not only on the technical side of things, because, for instance, the VET college and the lab from Uruguay have been taking part in this process. The Ministry of Industry, through the National Directorate of Small and Medium Enterprises, they have been providing training opportunities for this community. We are also planning a project to develop the brand Puente Baliza Shrimp, which would allow to trace the product. It would make it traceable, and that would generate an added value. And we are following up on that with the institutions and the departmental government that are supporting this project, because we want to provide these opportunities for training, development, reflection, so that they can understand how important it is to create this added value for their produce. And this would be more or less the overview of the process. We have fulfilled, or we're in the process of fulfilling a historic demand. We are creating the tools. It all depends on the departmental government. The departmental government covers the electricity costs. And in terms of the internal management or logistics, that is covered by a sort of fund that we charge 10% per kilo to the fisherman that uses the filleting chamber, or that uses the water, for instance, for the cleaning process or the filleting process. And the INADA, the National Directorate for Water Resources, that depends on the Ministry of Mining, Agriculture, and Fishery, also participates in this to make this filleting chamber available, to certify it. So we are opening different channels in terms of the hygienic and sanitary aspects of this chamber. we should not forget that before the filleting chamber, they were filleting the fish under bridges or under trees right next to the lagoon, and then they sold it immediately, or maybe they kept it, they stored it in a small freezer to preserve the product under those conditions. So we have access to more opportunities now, more doors have opened, and we have faced the need of involving the community more and more in the work that we do, which has not been easy. It's not an easy process. It is a great learning process, and we're trying to socially reach, for instance, the IOM or the equity departments of the government to tackle that social work that is needed and that is lacking, because we are talking about a high vulnerability area in terms of their socioeconomic characteristics. So sometimes we need to do this kind of field work hands in hands with them, and tackle this issue with a comprehensive perspective. Looking towards the future, we see that there is a need for the management, which now is in the hands of the departmental government, but we believe that it is necessary to have an association or an organization to be involved in that, to add some kind of legal framework to it so that they can start organizing better in doing this job. I believe that that would be the overview of the whole project, and I am open to any questions or things that I may have overlooked or any questions that you may have. So briefly, Emilio, the electricity that is used in the filleting chamber, is that electricity or it comes from fuel? No, it is electricity. We needed to get that power support, because otherwise we wouldn't have been able to fulfill the demand, and the departmental government creates the links with the power supplier, and there is a meter that feeds the chambers and the filleting chamber that is in between the two cooling chambers. These are more or less 7 to 8 meters away from the coastline. So we are restructuring that cleaning and filleting area, and that goes together with the work that we are doing in the cooling chambers. And we are working with the National Directorate of Water Resources that is in charge of creating and providing all the permits to use these chambers and to provide a more comfortable space for the fishermen so that they can be more productive, work in better conditions, and create a better quality product. So thank you,
over to you,
Emilio.
Bewin. Do you have any specific questions for your colleague? Over to you. Thank you.
Yeah. As I read from the concept note, there's a problem with the electricity there. Do you are you planning to use solar energy there?
Bien.
Okay, of course, we are interested in trying to use that solar energy. We would like to use that, but it depends on the funds from the department, because they implemented this development. Of course, we think that in the mid to long term, this project will have sustainability once the commercial channels are designed and once the community is organized to sell the products. But it's a process that is a question mark for us now, because we have to try and see how we can generate those funds in order to use that solar energy. And also now, for instance, we are in the process of looking for a smaller container in order to have ice. That's another problem. We have not enough ice in scales. It's a very important input for preserving the fish and for selling it. So we are in that process now. We are trying and see how we can purchase those inputs, those supplies. So this, takes a better shape and we can implement it in the community.
As a connecting question, like what suppose there will be power failures, like power shutdown. So how do you manage those situations?
In general, the power failures do not last more than 24 or 72 hours. During that time, the cold room can preserve the product along that time. If that was not the case, we would need a generator for feeding the cold rooms. But as I was saying, this started in February last year. We did the setup last year. Then came all the construction and all that. So we are trying to deal with those problems as they come up and the day-to-day life. It's a project that implies a process. And as a process and as a new process, we try to adapt to all those situations whenever we see that we are needing another element for this project.
Thank you, Emilia.
Thank you, Bewin.
So I have another question for you, Emilio, from Marwa from Tanzania, that is very active today. Let me read it. So the first question is that in Tanzania, they have a problem because they have high losses of the sardine fish. So they fish large amounts of sardine, but then they do not have the survival of the sardine since they fish it until they can sell it. So the question is, what do you do to ensure that passage between the fishing itself and the moment it reaches to the filleting room? Because I suppose there's a passage there, or what's the process until the fish comes out of the water until you put it in the cold room? What is that process like? How do you deal with that so as not to lose as much fish until it reaches the consumer? Well, what I was explaining is that this is just 7 or 8 meters from the stream, from the water stream. So all the fish that we receive from there go through a cleaning, a primary cleaning process, just washing with fresh water, and then it's prepared for storing the fish whole, or we move on to the filleting of the fish. If we fillet the fish, well, it's filleted, it's processed and then it's kept in the chambers. If we keep it whole, it's cleaned. The fish is cleaned and washed, and it's stored in boxes, and then it's taken to the cold room. So that process doesn't take more than, depending on the volume, but in general, the volumes are no more than perhaps each fisherman may catch, I don't know, 100, 200, 250 kilograms of whole fish in 20-kilogram boxes. And depending on the species, that also depends. And then as to the shrimp, it can be prepared after that cleaning. It can be kept in whole in cradles. It's like a box where they are kept. And then that can be done directly after washing, or we can generate some added value that's done also on the spot. That is like removing the outside of the fish and just keeping the pulp. That's also kept in those cradles and it's frozen. The thing about the waste is that when the moment comes of the harvest, there's another project from the Environmental Management Division and the Economic Development Department that is collecting the fishing waste for as organic material for composting. There's a public-private partnership to generate that second stage. That is happening today already with the fishing community, the sea fishermen at La Paloma, another district. Another question here from Pravod. We don't know where he's from. We suppose he's from India. And the question is, what's the capacity, I suppose, the square meters of the cold room or the filleting room, the temperature, and how many spaces it has, what type of fish, that's very specific, what type of fish do you process there, and then the percentage of use. It's a percentage of UTI utility. I don't know if you know what that refers to. I guess the question is from India. Well, they are containers, 40 feet containers. I think those are the largest. In general, the container, when it's full, weighs 27, 29 tons. So that would be around 58 tons because there are two. In general, the total volume will never be covered because the process of the person catching the shrimp, in general, what we've seen is that they split the total fish in 2 or 3, and the first third is sold directly on the spot to cover for the fuel costs and all the expenses they have in the process. And then with the other thirds of that those products, they decide, depending on the demand for the product and depending on the type of harvest and the volume. So those are factors that make the fishermen think and reorganize how they face the process. And that's done, of course, individually. Some fishermen have 10 traps, other fishermen have 15 or 20, 25, 30 traps, depending on the ordinances from the General Division of Water Resources. That is the agency that issues those ordinances. In our case, as a departmental government, we support all this work and the community as to training. We provide support with the tools for fishing. And also a reserve fund was created. It's a rotating fund for the fishermen from these 3 areas that I mentioned, Puente Balizas, Barra de Balizas, and Cabo Polonio. It's a rotating fund for 600,000 pesos from the departmental government. It's a kind of a loan for the fishermen. It's a 20,000 peso loan so that before the harvest, they can, make some adjustments to their tools and all that. And they pay back the loan in 90 days with a very low interest rate. I think it's just 9% or perhaps 0 interest. We are deciding this with the Treasury Department at the departmental government. In this water stream, the species, maybe one is called lacha, that is used a lot. Also white corvine, black corvine, another one that is called tararira, lisa, that's mainly in the Rocha Lagoon. Those are the local species that we catch. Also a kind of Crab, that's another species that is captured that has a high commercial value in Uruguayan pesos. It's around 400, 500 pesos per kilogram. And then shrimp, as I mentioned, the paulensis species, that's like the star. Also, sole is very valued, and it has a high price in the market because it's a high quality species. And those are I think I've answered all the questions from our colleague. Thank you so much.
Edwin, do you have any last question, any last comment that you want to make for Emilio, or we can start wrapping up?
We can wrap up. Yeah.
It's been intense, eh? It's been really intense because this public today was full of questions. In fact, I have my own questions, but I don't think we're going to have time for more because we are reaching a little bit the end of the time available. Just wanted to make some final comments, and maybe we can also. Emilio was asking before how to continue with the conversation. We can also set up a second call also, with you and Bewing. We can also, with interpretation, is not a problem for us. I think that the two projects have a lot of similarities. Of course, it's the cold room. It's the operation of the cold room has the same questions, but I think that, of course, one is dealing with fisheries, and of course, it's mostly men who operates the cold room, traditionally, I guess, while the cold room in Roquela, it's mostly fresh products, so groceries, vegetables, and it's also mostly women who operates the cold room. So it will be also interesting to see what are the differences of dealing with the communities, because we know from past experience that dealing with organizing the community is not easy at all, because of course dealing with human beings, and then each person comes with their own rights, with their own perceptions. So these kind of problems, it takes a lot of time for project managers to try to solve and bring people together, and not to fight about the spaces, about who utilizes it, who pays more, who is not paying. So that part, we know it's not easy to talk about it publicly. But I guess that dealing with the communities is always a lot of time. I think that it's very interesting also of the use of electricity versus the use of solar panels. Of course, the solar panels require a big investment, so you need a lot of capital to start with, which is what I think that was the problem of Rocha. Not that they didn't think about it. Of course, it was a very good option, but they didn't have the initial capital to start with solar panels. That, of course, allows you to have lower bills in the use of the cold room. So, of course, it's the question of having the necessary capital investment that then, unfortunately, there is no institution that you can go to and say, okay, pay for the solar panels, and then we will be able to pay you back. Because we are going to make so much money because we don't need to pay electricity bills, especially today that the electricity bills are out of control, and with very few communities and especially local governments have any power to regulate the price of electricity. I think that another question that we should address more if we had more time is the question also, of course, of the intermediaries. I think that Bewin, the system that you put in place goes straight to the consumer, so you are jumping over the intermediaries, where I understood in Rocha, most of the things is that the fish then goes to an intermediary without having that kind of possibility of selling directly to the citizen, which is what they have established in Roquela. In Roquela, they have also this kind of small space, which acts like a marketplace around the cold room. And then I think he mentioned this kind of rickshaws, which is the tuk-tuk or the motocarro, the guagua, which are also municipal, and then the women can sell the products directly. So it's very important to consider intermediary versus reaching the consumer directly. Then I think that something that you mentioned, Emilio, the traceability of the product, I don't know if that is in English, the capacity to follow where the product is going and if it arrives fresh or not. That is something that, of course, it's expensive to put a system into place. I think our colleagues in Butuan, who I see online, they have a good experience with that about, what happens when the product gets out of the market. Of course, this is more money, another problem, and then it never ends. You start you start with keeping it fresh, and then the responsibility of a local government never finish, because then you have to start with another very interesting thing, which is the quality of the product. I was in Chicago, but it was a long time ago, maybe 6 years ago. And I remember that the municipality was doing this kind of certification of the food. It was a street food selling, but of course the consumer trusts the municipality. And what the municipality was doing was certifying that processed food, because in this case it was food trucks, the quality was good because it was produced in this kind of community kitchens. But the most important role, and I want to visit them, and they told me the local cooks, mostly migrant, by the way, to address Carla's question, it was that people didn't trust that those food were fresh or good quality. And the best service of the municipality was not as much as helping them with, it was like to have this kind of quality market. They said, this food is produced in good conditions. Of course, then you're risking that if something happened to the food, then it's the municipality fault. But sometimes just this kind of guarantee from the municipality helps the local communities and producers a lot. So maybe this is something that we could explore more. And I think, of course, we have a lot to say here. I think we are out of time now, but do you have any last comments after my questions? Bewin or Emilio, a last opportunity to say anything that stayed in the ink. We say it in Spanish, en el tintero, se quedó en el tintero, stayed in the ink. Any last question, comments?
No, I'm good.
You're fine, Emilio? I believe that it is a very important stage. What we are trying to do is to create or foster the food sovereignty concept in this small community. This is a concept that we are trying to foster through the generation of food safety, food security, and also to teach people why they should keep their food safe and why productivity should be sustainable in these small communities. So that's the kind of support that we are delivering. And the Fishery Directorate was formed 3 years ago, and we have started to work on this in different areas, and our experience goes back to 1 year, more or less. So it's quite a new experience for us. And we are open to any kind of collaboration, any kind of support, and also any kind of opportunity for knowing about lessons learned in other countries that will be enriching for us.
Thank you very much, Emilio. Thanks, Bewin, and thank you to my team who is behind the scenes to make sure that everything works well. Of course, thanks to the interpreters. And finally, to our participants. We had today around 40 people online, so thank you very much. Keep tuned to our webpage, our next events, and through our newsletter. You're all included. So keep coming and making these interesting questions to learn together and to see how this Agenda 2030 becomes a reality in your own territories and city. Thank you very much.
Thank you.